Lots of groups I have been watching. Some of them they got 115,000 and so on. All of them are women's. It's becoming quite. There's a lot of them now in the Middle East. I can see them. They're all women-only groups. I have just had the privilege of seeing one of them because they want me to see what's going on there.
Okay.
They are talking about all these kind of things, but one of the things I noticed when they're talking about the man or how they should be stronger enough to protect their territories against men, I believe they should engage the men in this discussion because they're talking to each other. 100,000 women in one group, for example. I might believe discussion should be like this: women and men together, because you can't get it done. Like you said, you manipulate your husband to say something in a group. What about if you get men together, engaged in the process of equality? Because you want to be equal with whom? With men. If you get men on board, you might get that job done quicker than you fight it alone. What do you think of that?
Oh, one, I agree with you, except on one thing. I don't think we want to be equal to men. I think we're actually superior. I think we can do everything a man can do, and we can have children as well.
I agree.
So that makes us superior. But having said that, I agree. I think, though, that the first thing that women need to do is to talk to themselves and build their own networks so that they know that they have support, and then engage the men. Because then it's not just a lone voice crying in the wilderness. You have the power of, it's all of us. I'm not the only one. I'm not mad. I'm not the only one who feels that I should be allowed to drive. All of us feel that we should be allowed to drive. All of us feel that there's nothing wrong with women driving. And then that is the power of change. So yes, we do need to engage with the men. We do need to talk to them. We do need to talk with them. We do need to bring into our midst the men who see things the way we do, because there are some men who see things the way we do, who do not feel challenged by a woman's success, who do not feel challenged by women pushing the envelope, testing the waters, asking questions that perhaps culturally have never been asked. What is wrong? Why shouldn't I be allowed to be a village chief? Why does our culture say that women cannot do certain things? And people we've always said that women can't do certain things. Why? But if there are enough women asking that question from enough men, it is it's the game of numbers. When we have enough, we will have enough change. But I agree we need to engage with the men.
Can I just add something? I think I totally agree with you when you said women need to talk to each other first before starting to talking to men. Because if I use Sudan, for example, my country as an example, the patriarchal system is deeply embedded in the society, and you would find women condoning and supporting this system, even though it oppresses them. So I think we definitely need to address this issue by talking to women, so that they can start trying to break out of this patriarchal system.
I agree with you 100%, especially on the system of, you find that it's women who actually support customs and traditions that put women down. And until we get to challenge these usually much older women to say why, and there are enough of us saying why, then we'll be able to then challenge the men and say, well, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I agree with you.
Well, first, thank you for the very educative and eloquent lecture you have just given at the presentation. And coming to Nigeria, actually, when you mentioned about the culture, the actually saddened man with an overburdened man with a lot of responsibility to pay the bills and this and that,
I'm not sure that's true, but that's another issue.
I'm coming, So that reminds me of a chat I had with one English lady just of recent, when I told her, in my culture, man has to pay the bills, man has to pay the rent, man has to clothe you, give you clothing, man has to do and that. Then she said, am I allowed to work? I said, yes, you're allowed to work. When I work, where's my earning going? It's for you. You save it for yourself, I said. And the man's earning is for all of you, the family. She said, Do you know any man from that culture who wants to marry? So there's a joke. Actually, going back to Nigeria, as you said, given your role, very critical role as Nigeria is concerned, though you said your specialization is in arbitration, but still in development, you have a stake. So, going by what is happening in Nigeria today, nowadays, especially about Boko Haram, especially the recent abduction or kidnapping of 105 children.
Yeah.
That's girls actually from the school, from a school which happens to be my own state actually.
Yeah.
That's your state. And you know, women played important roles. One, the first person to actually raise the alarm to inform the security about that happenings was a woman. And again, the first person to establish contact with Boko Haram about the recent abduction of Boko Haram is Mama Boko Haram.
Mama Boko
She's
Haram.
a woman again, right? And she even assured the government and international community that, by what she heard from them, that they're not going to be taken in time as Chibok girls did. They're going to be released soon. So with that point, don't you see that Africa is changing, and particularly Nigeria, the perception of women's role is changing and they're catching up? What do you think?
I'm not sure that the woman's role is changing and that we're catching up. Yes, there are a lot of educated Nigerian women. We are still probably 10% of the population of women in Nigeria. There is still so much that Nigerian educated women can do to ensure that other women receive an education, know what their rights are, and can converse, participate in government and development activities at the same level as the men. There's a lot that is still culturally at stake. For instance, our understanding, there's a group called the International Federation of Women Lawyers, and they exist in many countries, and I'm a member in Nigeria. And one of the things that we have discovered is that cultural responsibility of the man pays all the bills. And at that time, the woman didn't work anyway. She went to the farm. But now she works, the money is hers, has actually changed. What we have actually found out is that the man now has 3 or 4 wives. Each wife is expected to take care of her own children. And he does what he can to say, well, fine, I'll give you this, I'll give you this, I'll give you this amount. I pay the school fees, you buy their school uniforms, you buy their school books, you pay their boarding fees. I pay the rent, you pay accommodation, or you pay accommodation, I pay feeding. So that actually, culturally, is changing. And especially in the polygamous families, you find out that a lot of the women are actually taking care of their own children. So tell your female friend, it may not be exactly as you have painted, that picture. But there's still a lot that women can do in Nigeria. Let me give you the Boko Haram example.
Yeah.
And before we get to Boko Haram, about 3 years ago, the government announced that there was going to be a recruitment into the immigration service. And the interviews were to take place at a stadium because there were about 20,000 candidates who turned up. There was a stampede. Some people died, some people were injured. And nothing happened. Now, I belong to another group, and we decided that we needed to sue the government. They have a responsibility, if they're holding an event, to make sure that the event is safe. It took blood, sweat, and tears for us to get 11 of those candidates who were prepared to act as plaintiffs to sue the federal government, the immigration service, and the minister. The case didn't even go to trial, because eventually the candidates, when we got to the point of we have a trial date, the candidates all then started saying, you know what, the government said they're going to give us free employment. They're going to give us guaranteed employment. They're going to compensate the families of those who died. So I want that compensation, so drop me out as a plaintiff. they're going to give us guaranteed employment, so drop me out as a plaintiff. And that's how we actually had to withdraw the case. All the 11 plaintiffs eventually withdrew. So those are issues. Now let's go to Boko Haram. The first incident, even before Boko Haram, was Buniyadi, the boys. We tried everything to get parents of those boys to act as plaintiffs. Because if you send your children to school, the government has a responsibility, whether it is the state government or the federal government, to take care of the children when they're in their care. And we said, let's test it. It's not that there's the education law or something, but let's just test. We couldn't get parents. Then Boko Haram the first, the Chibok girls. Now the second incident. And we've started trying to find out, is it possible, can we get parents who are prepared to act as plaintiffs? And let's challenge the government.
I'm happy to help you get the parents.
Please, I will give you my details. But these are the issues that educated women need to be looking at. So I'm not sure that we have still reached our potential. I wouldn't give us a pass mark. I'd love to, but I won't.
But it's the beginning.
Yeah, it's a beginning.
Coming from business background, I understand that there was a talk in Nigeria about putting a quota 5%. Putting a quota as 5% of the management to be female employed in Nigeria. And also that in some cases employers can get the female employee to sign agreement that for 5-10 years she will not have children, so she will be available to work. What can you tell me about
I don't know, I've never heard about this.
Okay.
What I have heard is that I know that in the previous government, there was a government policy that 35% of governmental positions would be reserved for women. And it wasn't up to 35%, but it was probably up to 20%. But that in the present government that we have now, we do not have that policy being implemented. And I know that some women are pushing to have it implemented. But in terms of employment, for companies saying, we will employ you, but you can't get married or you can't have children for a couple of years, I'm not aware.
It's just disturbing when I have Nigerian students that came up to me and when we talked and discussed these issues.
They should go to a lawyer.
With this information, yeah.
If they don't know anyone, there's the International Federation of Women Lawyers. They have branches in every state, nearly every state. They should just go on the website and look for the nearest branch and go there.
Actually, I think those people that come to her, they are just innocent people who are just worried about what is happening, but not so directly affected people, I think. So they lack the local standing to sue or do anything.
Okay, they haven't been asked to sign those contracts.
Well,
But if they know of people who have, they should sue. Because there was an incident where the police, it turned out that the police had a policy that said if you were a woman in the police and you got married, you had to leave the barracks. And when it came out and became public knowledge and people started writing about it, they cancelled that policy. So things will change if we push.
Can I just ask one last question? I'm not sure how deeply involved you are or how familiar you are with Sharia law. But I just want to ask a question. It could be for you or any other person. Do you think it is at all possible to achieve gender equality under Sharia law?
What do you mean by gender equality?
Women having the same rights and opportunities as men in a society.
I'm not Muslim. But from my understanding of Sharia law, to the extent which I've had to advise on it, I would say that to the extent that you're talking about perhaps work rights, I don't see a problem. To the extent where you're talking about inheritance rights, there is a problem, because the Quran actually lays out the percentages to be distributed according to whether you are male or female. To the extent to which you are speaking about courts, family courts, not family law, courts itself, there's a prescription as to the oath of a man and the oath of a woman in terms of evidence and the weight to be attached to the evidence. So to that extent, I do not think that you would, if you're talking of gender parity.
I think I like the fact that you asked about what she meant by gender equality. Because it's not parity in terms of numbers. We should look at it in a wider sense. Islam has given a lot of rights where women needed to have, even in terms of more rights than men. Islam considered the need of each gender and catered for that, to the extent that it was revealed in the Quran, and it was interpreted and actually acted by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I don't think there is a problem with that. I think there are so many physical issues, logistic, life issues here in this room where we have different attributes, we have different whatever, and there is no problem for me with you having more rights in one area, and I'm sure you have no problem with having more, in terms of number, more a slice of something, if that could be justified. I think that the issue is rationalizing the implementation of that, and not to make it look like, okay, Quran doesn't like women and therefore their inheritance percentage is not exactly the inheritance of men or whatever. I mean, this man was just talking about how much Islam has put obligation in writing on men to do that. You are rich, you are educated, you are working. If you are a Muslim woman, if you don't want to spend that income on your family, you are not required to do that. Your man is required, is demanded as a role to do that. There are jobs that by our very physical nature that men can do better. There are jobs that by our very and this is not degrading, this is not demeaning. There are so many things that my wife can do better than I, and I don't mean cooking, I cook better than her. So it's not about demeaning women by saying that they are good at cleaning or washing or whatever, and making men look superior by saying, okay, they could generate better. They can't in all the time. We have in our very rural, I came from a very small village in Sudan. We had the privilege of having educated female members of the family. They are medical doctors and teachers and whatever, and they are generating much higher income than their husbands. And they are playing much more significant roles than their husband, and that is not a problem. I have sisters who are more educated than me, who are generating good income. We have no problem with that. I think it's about how the community makes sense of these holy revelations.
Exactly, that's it. Actually, as he said, it's about, is it sameness or equality?
Can I ask a question? If we're talking about fairness and equality, there's something that I don't understand, and that is the question of oaths. A offense has been committed.
Yeah.
If a woman is the only person who witnesses the offense, if a man is the only person who witnesses the offense, my understanding is that the oath of two women is equal to the oath of one man.
Yes,
which means that for the same offense, I would need two female witnesses to prove the offense, but only one male witness. Why?
But actually, the witness of a single female is not dismissed, but it needs to be corroborated. And I tell you the rationale. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, that's why,
yes.
you know.
The witness of one woman is not actually dismissed. But it needs to be corroborated, and for the reason that women, if I see someone being killed here in front of me, I could witness more detail than Jessica can.
Why?
Emotions.
Why?
Emotions, of course. I could try to prevent the man from preventing it, she will cry. This is nature. This is not me. This is
absolutely not true.
No, I just wanted to know why, because that's where I have that issue as to.
I think this is in favor of justice itself. That if there is a possibility that someone is affected by emotions or nature or something, the evidence has to be strong enough to justify convicting or quitting or whatever something. But Islam does not dismiss. This is a matter of fact. It does not dismiss the witness of a single woman, but it asks for it to be supported.
So under that.
I don't agree, but I understand.
So what you said was if there's any chance that a statement can be tainted in a way by emotion, then it needs to be corroborated. So that will always happen with women, and that will never happen with men.
Even men themselves, if you come to some witnesses, when a man gives testimony in court, there are some instances where they need to be corroborated. Like co-accused.
Sure.
Like evidence or testimony given by a relative.
So can
Even
I
by common law, there needs to be corroborated.
So can I ask, does that happen the other way around? If there's a chance, no woman she's gonna have no emotion, she's got no ties to the case whatsoever. There's no chance.
I think that's
Can I answer this? Because I'm a lawyer. Can I answer this? Yeah. When you are given a law, you are making a legislation. You don't look at minority cases. No. What you're doing when you are given legislation, you look at the majority cases to give legislation. If you have something which happens 1 out of 100, will you base your legislation on 1 and leave the 99? Would you do that?
So in this example, 100 times women's.
100 times a woman will be emotional. Will be emotional.
Let me ask you a simple question. Actually, women are more emotional by naturally.
Who said that?
Let us be honest ourselves.
What's your evidence?
Let us be honest. Let us
We're talking about women in peace and development.
The evidence is very clear, actually, unless if you want to deny some natural facts.
What's your evidence?
Yeah,
That's good. The evidence is that now, if you get someone here, actually, that will explain or express his ordeal, actually, someone that comes from Syria, right? Expressing his ordeal, the situation he went through, pathetic situation, you will have more women actually
Crying.
More women crying than men. Is it not?
That doesn't mean, but that doesn't mean that the woman is weaker than the man.
Is that a fact or not?
That doesn't.
But what I'm saying.
It just means that a man has been socialized not to show his emotions.
Okay, let me come back. Actually, I was about to say something.
Let's move on because I asked the question. I asked the question, and I have answered. I said I don't agree, but I understand.
But before you answer the question, I was about to say something.
No, he's answered it. He's explained. I was the one who raised the question about oaths and gender equality, and he's answered why you need. So, and I've said I don't agree, but I understand.
And also, we are constrained by time.
Thank you.
Other examples. And I would like to open the floor to more people if they would like to ask any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.